All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today for our CPE accredited webinar from spreadsheets to strategies. We are going to be talking about aligning ops and finance for cost control. So my name is Pinar. I will be your hostess with the mostest and moderating through the event. Before we jump in, I do want to mention again, this is a CPE eligible webinar. Make sure you answer at least 3 questions and remain on for the full webinar in order to receive your CPE credit. The webinar will be recorded and sent to you following the presentation. Your CPE credit will also arrive in a week or so. So be on the lookout for that. If you have any issues throughout the webinar, have any questions, feel free to contact us at marketing@restaurant365. Again, just kind of a brief intro to the webinar. We're going to be talking about bridging the gap between ops and finance, how we're aligning teams for more accurate data and better decisions. We're going to talk about how to eliminate that spreadsheet chaos that we kind of find ourselves bogged down with. Some proactive and reactive cost control solutions, getting ahead of food costs, and of course, we're going to have a live Q&A session. So I definitely want to make some time to introduce the speakers. So I'm excited to be joined by our 2 experts. We have Max Preifogel. He is the Vice President of RLM Hospitality. He works hand in hand with restaurant groups every day. He helps them streamline operations and improves accounting workflows and definitely getting the most value out of Restaurant 365. We also have Craig Rogers, our solutions engineer here at Restaurant 365. So he's worked with thousands of restaurant leaders and really has a deep insight into the real world challenges that they face, and tips on how to get control of their inventory cost and financial processes. So I definitely want to kick this over to Max to tell us a little bit more about RLM hospitality.
Yeah, howdy. My name is Max, and RLM Hospitality. We are a Restaurant 365 partner. We service restaurant groups on accounting and operations. R365 is the only solution we do that through because we thought it's, quite frankly, the best option. And we like to be specialists in one area versus several. And so we work with about 300 restaurant locations at the moment. We do regular services. We do setup of one-times with the R365 solution. And we're all about the operations-driven accounting and the functionality of R365. So that's us. And here's little graphs of ours. We're all about simplifying, moving the needle, focusing on some key ops metrics. So this is one of the very many things we do, aligns with R365 very well. Along with this slide here, we talk about consolidating data. This one's pertaining on just labor and the value of proactive, reactive, actual versus scheduled in real time. And then secondly, financial period end analysis, looking at trends, periods over time, comps, things like that, which the R365 suite really kind of complements well.
Fantastic. I'll kick it on over to Craig to tell us a little bit more about Restaurant 365.
Yeah, so for those of you new to Restaurant 365, it's really simple to look at, how is the value brought and where are some of the benefits seen, and where it starts is really with some of the key integrations. With these integrations to the point of sale, to your vendors, to the bank, first and foremost, there's going to be a streamlining of tasks, automating a lot of the reporting and the journal entries, eliminating a lot of the manual entry that takes place, both on the operation side and the accounting side. Along with removing kind of those manual tasks, one of the biggest values is having more timely reports and visibility into what's going on daily and weekly rather than at the end of the month. Being able to have more timely information, allowing people to make more proactive, data-driven decisions. A lot of the challenges restaurants face is to take care of everything. They're working in disparate systems, lots of different processes, spreadsheets, maybe even a bunch of different tools that they've brought on. And the challenge with getting the data from the different systems that they're using, from the operation side of the house to the accounting side of the house, and the accounting side of the house back to the operation side of the house. Again, it takes time, there's manual effort. And our solution to that is a true all-in-one, where we are bridging the gap between accounting and operations, streamlining a lot of processes, keeping everybody on the same page. A lot of what we'll be talking about today as we address some of the topics that we're presenting.
Thank you very much. So without further ado, we're going to move straight into our first poll question. That is going to be on bridging the gap. So make sure, again, everyone, you get an opportunity to answer this question here. The question is, how often does your finance and ops team sit down to talk about the numbers? We'll give you some time here to jump on in, getting all the participants an opportunity to answer. Give y'all another 10, 15 seconds to get your answers in. We've got about 75% of the audience answered. Again, if you want a CPE credit, make sure that you answer at least 3 of these questions. So, all right. Looks like we're getting there. I'm going to hold for just one more second before I end the poll. Make sure you get those answers in. Right or wrong answers does not matter. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end that poll here. Share the results for you. So right now, it looks like you guys are doing a great job. We've got about every week, about 35% of the audience is meeting with, sitting down with the ops and finance teams together. About once a month is 32%. Not very often. We've got about 18%. So definitely a good variety here. It looks like you guys are on top of it. So I am gonna go ahead and, want to kind of tee this up to Craig right off the bat. So Craig, you talk with the restaurant teams every day. What challenges are you seeing when it comes to getting finance and ops aligned?
Yeah, that's a great question. And just to clarify what my role is at Restaurant 365, I work with the sales teams. And so I'm having conversations every day with new restaurant groups, owners, operators, controllers who are not yet using Restaurant 365, but are looking for potential solutions to some of the challenges that they face. Every conversation, does have its differences, but one thing that I hear almost on every single phone call are the challenges with teams feeling like they're not on the same page. That there's this gap between the team, the operators, and the accountants. Now, a lot of these challenges that they're facing, are things like, feeling that they don't have an accurate or reliable picture on what's going on in the restaurant. As the accounting team's waiting to receive information from operators and vice versa. Also, with that gap, sometimes we see delays in reporting and, missing opportunities that if they had information earlier, they'd be able to act upon those. Mainly it's kind of that feeling that people communicate to me of, hey, we're working as a team here, but we feel like we're in separate silos, kind of working off different systems, different sets of numbers, and there's kind of just this natural gap or barrier that oftentimes exists between, both sides of those teams.
Max, are you seeing the same sort of findings with the restaurants you encounter?
Yeah, to kind of compliment Craig there, just so you guys learn a bit about me and what RLM does and who we do it with. So, I've been with many restaurant groups. I was with R365 for about 4 years before being in the partner world. And, I've seen many restaurant groups coming to Restaurant 365 and coming to RLMH because of that very challenge. It's our restaurants, there's so many options out there in tech stack, and maybe even without tech stack. At the end of the day, we still have to get our invoices. We still have to pay for those invoices. We still have to make sure I know Craig's working tomorrow as a line cook, and I still have to pay Craig for that line cook. So these things are going to happen without systems, and then they're going to happen hopefully with systems. And as we have all those systems in place, the burden is there is a financial person, a CFO, controller, bookkeeper that is going to put the books together. And in putting those books together, it's really great if the operators work with the bookkeeper and the bookkeeper works with the operator. It's one team, one dream, one financial set. And that's one thing that in our experience, people come to us at RLM and come to R365 for that unified experience. So when they bring in one invoice, it's the same invoice I'm doing as the AP entry person.
Nice. That brings us to our next poll question. So let me get this launched for everyone. So this is going to be, uh, sorry, uh, eliminating. So this is talking about eliminating spreadsheet chaos. So I'll give you guys some time to answer this one. How are you mainly tracking inventory and food costs today? No surprise, we're actually seeing a lot of spreadsheet answers here. I know we've heard that from a lot of groups here. Um, Again, we'll give you guys a little bit more time. But it looks like a good 60% of you guys are using an all-in-one system like Restaurant 365. So that's great to see. All right, we've got about 75% of the audience. I'll give you 10 more seconds and then we'll close that down. All right, and I'll share the results there with everyone. So you have an opportunity to see. So we've got about 58% said they're using an all-in-one system. And we do have a good chunk of folks using, 22% of us are using good old-fashioned spreadsheets. So I definitely want to make sure that we are going to jump right into eliminating that spreadsheet chaos. So Max, this is really for you. Many mid-market groups still rely on spreadsheets, which I find is wild. What issues are you seeing when restaurants are using disconnected tools for cost tracking? What are some of the challenges?
Yeah, great question. So, I can actually, I have several real world stories of this. And so one of the stories I can tell is we at RLM we were contracted by a group they were already using R365 accounting, right? They were using it before, they've been using it. It's an amazing core accounting solution. But they were using in this experience other solutions and top tier solutions at that for some of their operational controls. So that would be, like the top dogs of inventory, the top dogs of scheduling, but all in their own R&D and time. So those are great solutions. But the challenge was their data and the other solution, let's say on the scheduling tool, would have a labor percentage about 4 points better than the bookkeeper's data. Same thing on the costing side. Why? Because we have to feed data in to the books and to the other operational tools. And how that data is fed in is up to the restaurant group. So I often call it like, Frankenstein's monster, where you're going to take all these amazing, strong parts, sure, but it's going to take a Dr. Frankenstein to put those things together. And those are very, very rare to find. And so in this story, they had a great solutions and it was awesome, but they came in and they were like, hey, I want to bring in Restaurant 365 ops all the way, operations, inventory controls to AVT with recipes to menu engineering with our menu item analysis, and then even all the way to the scheduling component of actual versus scheduled daily real-time punch analysis. And so we got them there, right? And in doing so, we did catch that the numbers had to kind of increase beyond what they thought on their operational tools, but it matched the financial data. But by having that understanding, it really allowed the CFO to lead the charge in saving their costs exponentially, right? And we've seen that as well as with groups not using those A tier other solutions, right? We've seen it with groups that were using inventory Excel spreadsheets, which is awesome. I love Excel. But the burden there is we think about I have ground beef at location A, I have ground beef on location B. And in order to maintain those Excel sheets, it's going to take location A's manager maintaining theirs, location B's manager maintaining theirs. And so costing might be different of the ground beef at the two locations, even though really it's the same exact cost. And so having a consolidation of the inventory solution, meaning it's just one master item, it allows one system expert to say, hey, this is ground beef, and you now have access to it at all of your count templates to make sure it's online, ready to rock and roll, and I can analyze it. So yeah, I would definitely say the more you have, the bigger the doctor, right? The master Frankenstein to say, let's put this guy together. But the fewer systems, It makes people like, every day just to be able to go, hey, I have a good knowledge of this and I can make it happen because I know this one solution and it's my solution. We're swimming inside my pool of R365.
And I noticed one of your pro tips here is eliminating the noise and focus on what matters. Can you tell us what some of those distractions may be that you've seen that really kind of get folks away from the task at hand, right? And focusing on what matters.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, in financials, there is so much that needs to be done. There's so much to absorb. And what we believe in when we say eliminate the noise is honing in on what's going to yield the greatest financial impact. Because there's always opportunity. It doesn't matter how great we are. I work with restaurant groups that come to us and they're already doing 60% prime costs. After working with us for X amount of years or months, we're on our way down to 55% prime costs. I've had groups that come in and they're doing 70%, 80% prime costs. And we got to figure out, how do we take that and turn it into the greater result? And usually it's fundamentals to advancements, right? And so it's identifying, what area do we want to focus on? What's our initiative this next period? Because I have real-time financials. I understand right now that my opportunity is inside meat cost, and meat cost, my opportunity is ground beef. Ground beef is at a higher price point than it was last period. If I reduce that price point, it's going to save my greatest in COGS. Or labor, right? My back of house labor cost is where most of my opportunity is. So even though I'm doing great on my front of house schedules, let's put more focus over here. By honing in on stuff like that, and the only way you're going to do that is by having the data sooner and faster than the latter.
And Craig, anything to build off of on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Max just covered that perfectly. You know what I love so much about the format of this conversation? When I'm having conversations with people, it's usually when, again, they're looking to solve a problem. They're starting to realize the magnitude of some of the challenges that they're facing. I'm having a conversation with them to help them see a potential solution with Restaurant 365. Max is seeing it on the other end, right? Getting people implemented, getting these tools set up for them, getting Restaurant 365 set up, and customers actually realizing, the benefit that Max just mentioned, having more visibility, being able to make more proactive decisions. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I have anything else to add to what Max said, other than, the customers that I'm talking to coming from the spreadsheet environment is just overwhelming, just maintaining those spreadsheets, the daily and manual efforts needed. And maybe this wasn't mentioned exactly, but a lot of times what's shared with me is this underlying, uncertainty in the numbers that they're looking at, and they're working off numbers. And a lot of people are saying, hey, the numbers are what they are. Whether they're 100% accurate, we have no idea. But this is how we're running our business.
Have you ever
Yeah, and then
run
if I can,
Oh, no,
sorry.
no, go ahead, Max.
No, I want to chime in because I love those conversations going. Like he's totally right. Like I've worked with CFOs, like their title is CFO, and they really are savvy CFOs. Many years of experience, better than I ever will be. And the challenge is, they're doing all these manual tasks. They're spending all of their time producing the financials. So by the time we produce those financials, because we're using all of these manual day-to-day processes and period end processes, we're missing out on the analysis piece, the direction piece. And so if I can have most of these automations to get these tasks done without me, then I can just simply analyze the data. And so that's like the biggest win about using a tool that consolidates and automates, is your day-to-day is going to be review, not rolling my sleeves up and doing.
I actually think that rolls in really nicely into our next topic, which is kind of being more proactive than reactive. And so we're going to launch one more poll. Well, we've got a couple more for you today. So this one is going to be, oh, sorry, y'all. It looks like I gonna go ahead and launch this next poll. So this is being proactive versus reactive. When do you usually catch food cost issues? Again, looking at utilizing spreadsheets, it's a little bit tougher. You tend to do a data autopsy, if you will. versus utilizing that data to make some informed real-time decisions. So when do you usually catch food cost issues? Ooh, we're seeing a lot of end of the month catches here. So we'll definitely have to dig into how to catch those issues earlier. I know we're definitely going to dig into some reporting here and showing you how we're able to do that. So I'll give you guys a little bit more time. We've got about 77% of the folks here joined. So just 10 more seconds. All right. So I want to go ahead and share the results with you. So you can see a good majority of you are checking these numbers at the end of the month. I think based on the last conversation we just had, that is a month too late. So we're definitely going to dive into that next topic here. Without further ado, so, Craig, we talked about being proactive versus reactive. So, how often do you see these teams catching it too late? Again, based on that poll we just showed, it sounds like it may be a little too late.
Yeah, I love this poll question because it's a lot of what I see on every single phone call. I'm talking to people. One of the most common challenges, I'm sure it's not a surprise to anybody, is staying on top of food costs. And one of the main drivers behind the concern is the timeliness of when they're looking at the information, when they're being notified, when they're seeing that prices have fluctuated, so that they're able to adapt and proactively, make decisions. Even looking at the poll here at the end of the month, not too bad, but maybe still a little bit too late. Almost every prospect we talk to in one way or another is catching food cost a little bit too late. Typically at the end of the month, or most of the times I'll ask people questions, hey, when are you looking at a P&L? When are you looking at reports? A lot of times I hear a week or two after the month is closed. It doesn't take a lot to know that by that time you're looking at hundreds, possibly thousands of dollars in lost margin, not being able to catch things more live real time. Think about, wouldn't it be great to know today, if a case of chicken costs 10 more bucks, being able to adjust that, look at the recipes that's impacting and make more proactive decisions. Speed to insight is everything. Waiting to month end, you're losing money. You're losing the opportunity to run a tighter, smarter, more profitable business every single day.
Yeah, and I would say I love this image of forecasting. So at the end of the day, financials are financials. We can do our best for more real time and proactive financials, budgets, put a budget in to compare up against. I understand I'm budgeted to do this, but this is again why RLMH, we really do partner with Just Restaurant 365 as our solution for services, is because it's all the same tool. And our financials are being produced inside the Smart Ops module. And the Smart Ops module here is showing this forecasting image of the weekly forecasting. What's so cool about this is, if we're going to be proactive, we really want to be swimming in the same pond as our accountants. And then secondly, we really want to know our point of sale data is coming into Restaurant 365. And we can see like that's our sales yesterday. And we can see our sales yesterday. Is it hitting what we forecasted? Oh, did we miss 10%? Did we miss 10% the day before that? Maybe we're down 10% the rest of this week. I should go ahead and adjust my sales for the rest of this week because I have 4 more days this week. And that means I can take that, and I already made a schedule in this same tool. So now that I've adjusted my forecast the rest of the week down 10%, I can now shave off a couple hours of labor here or there to hit my labor goal the rest of the week since I missed sales 2 days in a row. And that's very powerful stuff in terms of controls on something like scheduling. Now, purchasing too, though, if we're going to be, trying to hit a COGS number, we can really go, all right, well, I'm budgeted to do X amount of dollars in sales. It's about the same as last week. Did I hit my purchasing goal last week of maybe I'm trying to purchase 32% COGS? No, I missed it. And that was about $10,000 in purchasing. So maybe I need to go down to $8,000 in purchasing. So I understand what I need to purchase the rest this week. And so those forecasting sales and kind of setting almost like a declining budget, if you will, inside the ops module, which is the accounting module. And those are very proactive tools. And what we're looking at here is an amazing, again, because we talked about how we're connected to the point of sale, and this is our inventory module. It's also our scheduling solution. It's all connected. Well, this is an example of the POS bringing in our menu items, what we sell, which is connected to my recipes. So I can really understand on a really good reactive analysis if my margins on my items, right? Maybe I'm shooting for a target margin. We see here 80% across the board. Excellent target margin. And we're doing that. We're knocking out the park. But if we're missing the target margin, is it because of my prices? Have my price as my costs increased? So can I decrease costs again? Or is it because I need to increase my menu item prices? And this is something that's really good to keep an eye on in today's costing, because we have fluctuations and purchasing prices big time right now. And understanding when I might need to increase my menu item prices is a very nice thing. And it's all happening inside the same inventory module. So to that point, as you know your prices are changing in real time, you run this report and go, maybe next quarter I need to think about rolling out some new menu item prices. So this is very powerful stuff. Proaction, reaction, all in one solution. So, and same thing here. This is that scheduling piece. We just adjusted the forecast. This is my scheduler. It'll tell me the rest of the work week. Am I going to be up or down versus projections? And I need to adjust that in real time if so. And so, all inside that one solution.
Nice. Craig, anything to add here on just kind of like the reports we're seeing, some of the best ways to utilize these reports in order to make adjustments and be more proactive?
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to just the timeliness of the information. When you can pull up any report or a dashboard on demand and see exactly what's going on with food costs, with how your labor is trending, and being able to proactively make a decision makes all the difference in the world. Second part to your earlier question was, what's the cost of the delay and not being able to be proactive? Max kind of hit on it, but there's very few customers that I talk to that don't have a goal of reducing things by 1%, 2%. We all know the math. You're talking about tens, if not tens of thousands of dollars that can be realized every single month by being able to be a little bit more proactive and not catching things a month too late or weeks too late and being able to make those adjustments quickly.
Yeah, and another piece that since this is up, and I think it's another cool thing to think about is, I came from a world of running restaurants. It's what I used to do. And I was, as a single unit operator, multi-unit operator, and now I'm living in the world of I know financials. But I could tell you, when I was doing the operations, you show me a P&L, it's not going to be as impactful as if you show me this, or you show me the last report, or you show me some of the other item detail that's living in the same financial numbers. And so, I mean, to that point, we've really seen groups at RLM using R365 move the needle from just that. Like they've known that their labor cost is not what they want it to be. They've known this. It's been known. Have they known it on time? No. But even when knowing it on time, what do I do with it? What do I do with this information? The last report was that scheduling piece, and that's what you do with it. It's where can we save our labor cost? Are we equal 50% lunch and dinner sales, right? So my revenue's coming in equals 50-50, but is all my labor in the front end or the back end? And I've seen groups do just that. They realize they're not scheduling enough at night and they're putting it all in the morning, and they can do more of a spread. And it's therefore made a better guest experience, decrease better ticket times, better guest satisfaction. And secondly, it's helped spread the cost of labor to when revenue's coming in. So therefore, we can actually use labor at wiser times. And so, I mean, yeah, when you're looking at the financials, a P&L, it's great, but operators speak the language of the tools. So, yeah.
Love that. Is there a favorite report for either one of you that within Restaurant 365 that really just kind of like encapsulates everything that you would need in order to be more proactive?
Yeah, I have two. Right. So financials are financials. We don't have to reinvent that wheel. Everyone's running P&Ls, everyone's running balance sheets. But there's two reports in R365 that I definitely campaign for, and it's the actual versus theoretical analysis for COGS analysis. I call it the mother report for COGS, and then it's the actual versus scheduled detail report out of R365 for labor analysis. And that's what I call the mother report for labor. I can't think of one thing I can't find using those two reports on labor and COGS. So they're incredible.
Love, and yourself, Craig?
That's right where I was going. Two of my favorite reports to show when I'm demoing Restaurant 365 is that AVT and schedule versus actual report. Just like Max said, just having those insights on demand, very powerful tools.
Love that. Uh, and it is poll time again. So we are going to, this one is talking about getting ahead of food costs. So, what is the hardest part about managing food costs for you? Prices keep changing, waste and spoilage sneak up on us, ordering is all over the place, and hard to stick to budgets. And then, honestly, all of the above. It's definitely an option. So, I'll give y'all a minute here to answer that question.
Well, people are filling that out. I mean, this just resonates with me because the conversation or the solution isn't a one hit wonder, right? You look at everything that touches food costs, keeping up to date on the price changes, tracking waste, um, ordering consistently and effectively. I mean, there's no question. There's a lot to manage, a lot to have to control and maintain to be successful. And as we see with our replies here, it's all the above, right? It's not just one thing. It's all the above that need to have better controls over and easier way to process everything.
Okay, well, in the pool there. Again, Craig said it. Everyone is, it sounds as if all of the above is really where we've landed. So um, we'll definitely, we'll kind of dig into that in the next topic. So again, getting ahead of food costs. So Max, I'm gonna pitch this one over to you. What are some of the habits that you've seen with your clients that have really helped the restaurant stay consistently ahead of food costs? I know you get restaurants from all walks of life. What is the commonality between them that you've seen in the successful ones?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Craig's right. This is definitely one of those that it's not a one glove fits all. And go back to what I said at the start, eliminate the noise. Um, Everyone can get better at this. It's just where am I going to get better? What is the focus? I mean, you can always do better, and just matching where you got to start. And so, like for me, it's starting with the basics, starting with the fundamentals, and then going into the advancements if fundamentals are online. And so, when it comes to food costs for me, what is the first fundamental? It's my purchasing. Is my purchasing online? Like, let's just pretend we don't have a fancy solution. What do I do about that? It's what we used to do when I first started running restaurants. It's you have hopefully an Excel document or something, and I have a on hand, a par, and an order amount, right? So I can take that and look at what my on hand was last time, the time before that, the time before that, and what I ordered it up against par the times before that. What does that really mean? Like it just means usage. I'm going to understand what I use and for one item that I'm buying in a period of time, right? So that's very manual, and it's what we used to do without fancy tools. So, if you have that and you have an understanding of that, and you're really kind of using those on hand versus par level versus what am I actually ordering, well, then you can use something like this. And what I mean by that is Restaurant 365. R365 has an ordering solution, and in that ordering solution, it's literally if we're using this tool by buying what we buy and by inventorying what we use, then the system is going to tell you what your usage per $1,000 is, right? It knows. The system just knows. And that is so powerful to say every $1,000 I use 10 pounds of ground beef. I keep talking about ground beef. I don't know why. But to know that is really, really interesting because if I know I use that per $1,000, if I'm forecasting sales like we showed the last slide, and I'm forecasting sales well, then if I'm going to be placing an order for the next 3 days, when I place that order, I can ask the system to tell me what I should order because it knows what you have on hand because you told it to, or you just trusted its theoretical on hand number. And it's going to say, hey, you're forecasted $30,000 the next 3 days. And your usage per 1,000 is X amount of usage. So here's what you should be ordering. And that is so powerful to get control on what we order because one, restaurants have tight cash flow. So even if we're inventorying what we have left over, we want to spend our money wisely in a short period of time. But two, the more we have of something, the more likely it's to spoil, walk out the door, control, right? So we want to only have what we need in a period of time. That's what we call an inventory turn, right? We want to turn our inventory in a period of time in a really solid ratio, hopefully one turn a week rather. And so maybe we're doing 4 turns a month or a period on operational 13.4. And so really understanding the purchasing is where it starts for me. And then I can go on and on about where it can finish, right? So that would be understanding the inventory, really kind of going what I have last time, what I have this time, actual versus theoretical analysis, which is going to be that world of theoretical, meaning if we're a robot, I'm always putting exactly 1 cup every time. I'm always putting one little yellow scoop every time, and it's always yielding out the same product amount every time. So I can take the robot version of me that's always doing it exact versus the real person of me and find out how close am I to a perfect situation, because it doesn't exist in restaurants. And that's where we can understand not actual usage, but theoretical usage. But if we're locked in on actual usage, then we dive into theoretical usage. That's how we turn 60% prime cost, 30% COGS into 25% COGS or better.
Love that. Craig, yourself?
Yeah, just thinking of best practices. I love where Max focused, starting with ordering. Mentioned this briefly, making sure that you're counting your inventory. A lot of groups that I talk to and ask them, it's one of the main questions I ask. One of the first questions I ask is, how often are you doing inventory counts? The answer, there's a variety of answers. A lot of times it's once a month, once a week. Wish that we could see everybody on the call and say, hey, raise your hand if doing inventory counts is your favorite part about running a restaurant. I'm sure there'd be no hands raised. A lot of times people are just putting that off. It's not fun, takes a lot of time. When you're doing things manually with spreadsheets, there's always that question of, hey, are things accurate or not? Then there's the question of, hey, what am I using the count for? Am I using it just to place that next order, or am I using it to actually calculate my COGS and know actually what my food costs are? Having a tool like Restaurant 365, a lot of where I've seen success with customers is being able to use the tool to focus where they need to focus. For example, you still have that weekly or monthly count where you're counting everything, but with a simple tool that makes it really easy to capture everything, where I'm seeing customers again be really successful is setting up a nightly count, focusing on the proteins, on the cheeses, or those key items that are really moving the needle on the cost of goods. It's just as easy to set up a template for that, count those 5 to 10 items, and stay on top of those key drivers to your COGS every single day.
I'd love to kind of dive into some of the reporting here and kind of get your feedback. Again, any pro tips you can give on reading these reports, making better decisions ahead of time.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, I love this. As we go back to that poll question, other than all of the above, the next item was prices keep changing. That's the hardest part of managing food cost. One cool thing here, we're looking at the example of an invoice record. You'll notice on some of those line items, there's a little bell or an alert. The example that we have here, we can see that this Texas toast was $2.97. It's now $3.32. It's gone up 12%, let's call it. Being able to see right away any price fluctuations as soon as that invoice comes in, really powerful. And I think really speaks to what we saw in that poll question. Staying on top of price changes and being able to make proactive decisions based off, that's a really big challenge. So a report like this, not really a report, but an actual invoice that comes in, being able to see those alerts, see those price changes live real time is really going to help with what we're talking about today in controlling food costs.
Yeah, and to complement that, I mean, so we, like I said, we have 300 locations about, and sometimes you can't look at every report like this. And so I wish we could, but we're at so many units where we have to leverage reports, and our R365 offers just that in their item price change analysis report. It's exactly this, but on a report. So believe me, if you can, look at every report by itself, but it's just as powerful when you have an understanding of that report. It shows the same exact thing, that you can actually set a threshold, a violation percentage. So let's say I only want to see items inside my meat that have changed 10% in the last 2 days. You can run that report across 60 locations, 50 locations, 10 locations, and it's going to show you which locations had meat change in violation to 10%. And so you're getting the same exact information on a report or inside the one invoice here. But I totally agree. That's where it starts after like proactive order guides is next inside the invoicing itself. Am I getting a pulse on my item costing before that inventory takes place? So yeah, totally.
Awesome. We have actually one more report. I definitely want you gentlemen to dig in a little bit here for us too.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier. It's so, and this is very fancy stuff. I can't stress that enough. It's the ordering module in Restaurant 365, and I think it's really really cool how when your manager you're very busy. You don't have time to maybe do the calculations yourself. So this system will do the calculations for you, and all you gotta do is make sure you're taking inventory, to what Craig said, and reviewing that inventory. Make sure you're getting your purchasing in and reviewing that purchasing. But then when it's time to do some ordering, the system is going to tell you the result of your purchasing and your inventorying. And that's exactly this. It's you're placing an order for $8,000 of sales, we'll call it. And in that, we know our usage per every 1,000 based off of you using Restaurant 365 is about 0.8 of a case every 1,000. So it's going to tell you, since we know right now you have on hand 1.5 cases and your usage is 0.8 of a case every 1,000, and we got about 8,000s, it's going to tell you that you need to order 5 more cases. And that is just so cool to know from the calculation. That's about what I need to get through this volume of sales. And you can even compare it up against your last average 4. And so if you think of it that way, in theory, we could have been over ordering our last average 4 by a couple cases because it's telling me this time I only need 5 cases, and that adds up. If a case is X amount of dollars, $120 every case, and so very very powerful calculation there, that really enhances the restaurant manager experience in ordering.
Love to hear that. Love to hear that. And so without further ado, we move on to our last poll question. And that is a follow-up. Definitely want to give you all an opportunity to, connect with either RLM or Restaurant 365. I know we have a lot of customers here on ground, so definitely want to get your feedback here on that one. Again, do not forget, if you have not answered at least 3 questions here, you will not be eligible for CPE credit. So I'm going to give some folks some time to fill this out. Still waiting on a few more folks. I'll give this another 15, 20 seconds here. We've only got about 70% participation. I know we've got about, we've been getting close to 80. So I want to make sure that I leave you guys enough time to catch this last question. Okay. I'll go ahead and end that now. I do want to go ahead and open this up to Q&A. And you know what? So far, the question has been actually comments. These CPE webinars are always helpful, but this one has been one of the best. So compliments, kudos to the chefs here. Thank you again for those positive words there. Any additional questions that I can answer here? And Craig and Max, I definitely want to kind of leave this up to you too. Are there any other things that you think, kind of passing words that you can share with the audience here on just, again, ways to get out of behind the spreadsheets, ways to be more proactive, and of course, ways to align with your ops and finance. Last pro tips.
Yeah, going back to the title, aligning ops and finance for ops control. I think it really does help when we're looking at the same data. And I think from one of the poll questions, it seems like a lot of people are using an all-in-one solution like Restaurant 365, which is great. But I mean, that's all the way to your, let's say if we're talking about purchasing last time, so I'll go away from that and talk about labor. If we're talking about how we have our time clock, which is a POS, and I'm clocking in on it, and that's flowing into Restaurant 365, then the POS is saying the same thing as Restaurant 365 on its labor accruals. So when I'm a accountant and I'm looking at my daily labor costs and it says this number, it says the same exact number that your time clock is saying. But what's even better though is if your operators, your restaurant managers aren't really using the POS for that labor analysis, but R365 Smart Ops, because in R365 Smart Ops, they're reviewing the yesterday's look back, yesterday's summary, and they're seeing the detail of why I spent accrued $800 of labor yesterday. They're instead seeing that Craig clocked in as a cook from 8 to 10. And by the way, he was scheduled from 10 to 10. So Craig, he actually clocked in 2 hours early. And you're seeing that inside the very same books that CFO is looking at or that controller is looking at. So that way we all know it's all apples to apples over here. I just think that's really, really powerful stuff is leveraging the same exact system. You know what I mean? And not chasing information. I know we can all say this on both sides. If any operators here, or any accountants are here, the worst thing is, whoever's asking the questions like, hey man, did we pay this vendor? Or hey man, I'm missing an invoice, I think. But if we're all inside the same tool, we know the invoices are here because I've been looking at the same exact invoices as the controller has, as the restaurant manager has. Especially if I'm ordering out of this system. If I went ahead and place an order to, I keep picking on Craig, but Craig's Meat Purveyors, if I place that order and I have a PO for it, I can easily see, do I have an invoice matched to the PO? So there's no way I'm missing an invoice if I'm matching all my orders to an invoice. And missing invoices are a thing of the past. So it's really, really great when you have an all-in-one solution that the accounting team can work together with the ops team and vice versa, to avoid any of that kind of pain, and what pain usually causes some frustration, and we're just winning together.
Love that. Greg, any final parting tips?
Yeah, just as I'm thinking about this, I love all the examples that Max was able to share, kind of real time experiences. And I'm hoping, but I'm pretty confident that everything you mentioned, Max, resonated with everybody, right? They've lived it, they've been there, they've done that. When I think about this whole conversation, really what makes me think about is being able to run the business without having to spend as much time managing the business. At the end of the day, the why behind finding solutions to this is to allow everybody on this call, our owners and operators, to spend more time doing what they love, spending time with the customers, creating wonderful experience, ensuring high quality, and making great food, right? And sometimes you get lost in the weeds when you have systems that take you away from that, having to manually spend time in the spreadsheets, everything that we just talked about. And so obviously, profitability, driving food costs down, labor costs down is key. But my takeaway from this is that there is a way to run a restaurant in a little bit more streamlined, efficient way, allowing you to spend more time doing the things that you love. The whole reason why you got into the restaurant business is my guess. So like Max said, being able to consolidate platforms, being an all-in-one system where processes are automated, really helps with that.